Hi guys, and welcome back to Abridged with a Scot. This is Tolkien Abridged, the Silmarillion Abridged. I am Rabu, I am the titular Scot, and as ever, our mission statement here, Tolkien, wonderful but hard to understand. What else is wonderful but hard to understand? The Scottish. So here we go. Now finally, the prologue's over. The messing about's done, we've set the scene. It's time to jump in proper to the Quenta Silmarillion, Chapter 1. Here we go, the history of the Silmarils. You're probably asking, what are the Silmarils? And I'll tell you, when they come up in the story, don't be jumping ahead. Stop asking questions. Just sit back, relax, listen, and believe me, you will be sick of hearing about the Silmarils by the end of this tale. Let me tell you, let me guarantee you. Anyway, so we're back. Back at the end of the Aino and Dali, we were told about the first war in the history of the Tolkienverse. Melkor versus, the rest of the Valar. Here we go, it's set up. It's gonna be a slobber knocker. It's actually not that mobile. It's a slobber knocker for the Valar because Melkor proceeds to kick the ever-living shit out of all of them at once. All the stuff they're trying to build, wrecked. Themselves, wrecked. He is just battering them about, absolutely no bother. He who arises in might, he was named well. At this point, Melkor is the undisputed ass-kicking champion. He has implemented the concept of kicking ass, taking names, and he's having fun with it, quite frankly. So what do we need here? Well, we need a hero. And we get one. Descending to Arda, going from being an Ainur, a cosmic entity, to a Valar, zip-filing himself into the form of a massive bruiser. It's only Tulkas. It's only the dumbest but strongest Valar. And he comes in to save the day. And he tips the scales. Basically, like, Tulkas essentially looked on, saw there was a world war and went, I'm going to join that for the fucking banter. Comes down and just proceeds to, just completely tip the scales, and Melkor runs away with his tail between his legs, hides out in the outer darkness, and he is fucking raging, which is kind of how Melkor is going to spend a lot of his time, to be honest. He's a very angry cosmic entity / god. So anyway, now that they've got rid of Melkor, at least temporarily, Valar are like, right, let's get Valar in. The seas, the earth, they start getting all back in order. Right, finally we can actually, create some stuff out of that fucking maniac destroying everything, right? Yavanna in particular is like, I have got something I've been sitting on and waiting to use here that I've not been able to because of that, lunatic. Brings out some seeds, scatters them, sows them. Here we go, gonna grow some shit. And then she realizes, wait a second, I need some photosynthesis here. I need a light source. The sun and the moon don't exist yet. Apparently they've just been doing a lot of this fighting and general world warring by, candlelight, essentially. So there's no light source to actually make our plants grow. So at this point, your man Owly, your god Owly, goes, what's that? Is that a new project? As we discussed, Owly loves a project, and he goes, I'll sort you out, Yavanna, don't you worry. And he builds 2 massive lamps. Just like, you've been to IKEA, we're talking way bigger than the biggest one that IKEA has. Sticks one at the north of Middle Earth, sticks one at the south. They're called Illuin, they're called Ormal, and they're just on all the time. Owly's invented big light twice, and he's just left them on, because they're not being charged, an electricity bill at this point, because electricity doesn't exist. So there you go. Anyway, so Yavanna's stuff obviously loves that there's light now. Sprouts up, here we go, moss here, plants there, wild beasts start appearing and stuff. Not flowers or birds. Apparently Yavanna was kind of playing those, she's quite proud of those, she's keeping her cards close to her chest, The world's not quite ready for flowers or birds yet. Don't you worry, we'll get there. But yeah, this is the first dwelling of the Valar that we learn about. It's this lovely island in the middle of a giant lake in Middle-earth. The Isle of Almarin. So, we've been crafting stuff, we've been, sorting out the world now that maniac Melkor is gone. Manwë goes, you know what? It's only party time. Here we go. He orders this great feast. Ellie and Telpus are like, big man. Yes. Yes. We have been smithing and we've been carrying stuff around and we've been fighting and scrapping and yeah, party sounds good. We are tired. We are tired. But so at this point, even this early on, Melkor's already got some spies among the Valar. Some of the Maiar spirits that he's turned to his own cause. They're feeding information back to him. And as we kind of mentioned, he is fucking furious. He is raging with this development because he's hearing about all this cool stuff that his former pals are making, and he can't even go and wreck it. He's basically on Cosmic LinkedIn. He's seen all these cool updates everybody's putting up. Oh my god, created the walls of the sea. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, glad Melkor's gone. What a fucking prick he was, did it? Raging, right? And he's like, right, gets all his goons together. He's like, cool, we've got Knuckles and there's Stabber and there's Biter and there's Beater. He's got all his names. He's like, yeah, we're ready. We're gonna be so fucking back. Here we go. And he waits for his chance. So the Valar, they throw this party. Turns into a wedding. Tulkas gets married to Nessa. She has a lovely celebratory dance. And Tulkas is like, that was absolutely grand. That was so good. You know what? He's so quietly content and so tired from all his work that he's like, you know what? I need a nap. And this is when Melkor sees this and he goes, that fucking meathead, that jock, it's gone for a little bit of beauty sleep, has he? We are so back, boys. So under cover of darkness, he comes to the north of Middle-earth. Well, the huge lights are still on, so they don't even realise that this darkness has come in the north because they're too busy partying. And they've left big light on. Melkor, we did mention that Melkor and Owly are quite similar in many ways, and Melkor makes it, has his own little project. So he starts digging. Him and his boys start, crafting, and they create this underground fortress. It's called Utumno. The Valar don't even know about it until so Melkor kind of, Osha doesn't exist yet, so there's quite a few violations here, and basically Utumno starts just polluting the shit out of the entire world. Creates, all these dirty marshes and stuff, these things, think beasts go wild and stuff around there, and the Valar are like, right, I guess Melkor's back, fucking Seinfeld fucking doom 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 doom. Melkor's back, and they're like, okay, right, okay, we'll go and sort this, we'll go and find him. Melkor uses this chance to close the old Kansas City shuffle. They're going to look for me here, they're going to go left, I'm going to go right. And he goes, and he only knocks over the fucking giant lamps that they've left on. Fire hazard. They're so gigantic, they split the earth, they cause all this fire damage and stuff. Originally the world of Arda is perfect, symmetrical and put together and stuff. The reason Middle-earth and, Aman and stuff are, irregular is because of this damage that Melkor does at this point where he, just fucking tips over these giant lamps. So obviously, he's loving that. But yeah, so basically he's pushed this stuff over, he's created all this damage, runs away because he realises, oh fuck, they're onto me, here we go. Manages to get back to Utumno, and basically the Valar fuck, they're having all their time trying to keep the world together and try to use all the creative powers to not let the world fucking implode because of this gigantic fucking fire, etc. And basically after they've sorted all that, they're like, oh, I kind of want to go and get Melkor, but the elves are going to wake up soon, the children of Iluvatar are going to be soon, and Eru hasn't actually shared the location of where that's going to happen. We kind of don't want to start a massive war that will rend the earth if we might actually, accidentally step on the first elves that ever, appear on the planet. So they do what anybody would do with a really terrible neighbour like that, and they just go, peace out. So they go across the sea to the western continent. They basically just leave Middle-earth to Melkor at this point. You go to the western continent of Arda, which is called Aman. They build Valinor, which is this, wonderful place. It's basically basically paradise. Essentially, they bring up these huge mountains on the eastern side of the continent to defend against Melkor. Nothing ever withers or dies there. Manwë's got this lovely chair that he sits on at the top of a mountain, and you can see everything. Absolutely class. Everybody's having a great time. And then, Yavanna goes, well, my light source is gone. What am I going to do? I guess I'll just take matters at basically pulls out the Infinity Gauntlet. Fine, I'll do it myself. Starts a special chant. Creates the second gigantic light source in Arda. She creates the trees of Valinor. So they spread out for the ground. There's these two gigantic trees. One gives off silvery light, one gives off golden light. So the silver one's called Silmarillion, the gold one's called Laurelin. And basically, this is a bit more advanced. We're into the beta of the gigantic light sources for Arda. So basically, one will they'll wax and wane every 7 hours, and as one of them an hour before one turns off, the other one comes back on. So there's basically this double day night cycle every day. So a bit sophisticated. A bit more sophisticated than just having a big lamp on. Owly, fuck's sake, you hack. Anyway. Also, funnily enough, the first Pokemon game to have a day and night cycle, actually Gold and Silver. So I guess we could say Pokemon Silmarillion and Pokemon Laurelin. Is that a coincidence? Probably. Also, this invents the little concept that we know as time, because they can actually record days and stuff now because it's not just big light on all time. So yeah, back in Middle Earth, it's just still eternal twilight. The light of the two trees don't really reach that far. It's just kind of in the kind of godly realm. So yeah, basically Melkor's just fucking shit back up there. He's just having a grand old time because there's nobody there to stop him. They don't really want to deal with him just now while they're waiting for the elves. So everybody else, we get just a general little rundown of basically the kind of everybody's in a bit of a holding pattern, going right, when are the children of Iluvatar going to arrive? When are the elves going to be here? We can't wait for the elves. It's like waiting for the Nintendo Wii back in the day. So yeah, Owly, he builds himself some mansions and stuff, and surprise, new projects. He crafts and crafts and crafts. This is going to be relevant because he's going to create all this crazy tech and stuff, all these techniques and whatever. And he is going to teach it to the Noldor, who, as we mentioned before in one of the episodes, are going to be the kind of key figures. They're a key genre of elf that is going to drive this story forward. And basically the techniques that Owly creates here is what's going to help in the future for the Silmarils to be created. Remember you were asking what the Silmarils are? The Silmarils are the fairest of all gems. Ooh. Interesting. How did the fairest of all gems tie into this gigantic story? Well, we'll find out. Anyway, so yeah, we get the general gist, of these little side quests they're doing. Manway's brooding on a mountaintop and stuff. Ilmor goes wandering because that's what he does. He makes some ocean music. Yavanna occasionally, goes out with Middle-earth and, kind of tries to heal some of the stuff that's been corrupted by Melkor, because God love her, she's a delicate soul. Aromi rides about on his horse because, of course he does, loves his horse, loves his riding. And but then we kind of finish the chapter with these clarifications about the relationship between the Valar, the elves that are to come, and then the men that are to come after that. So basically, when Eru created the kind of blueprint, the theme for the elves and men, the Valar didn't really know what was happening, so they didn't actually they didn't add any of their own stuff to it. So they're not really superior as such to the elves. They're kind of more like big brothers and guides, or at least they should be. And it kind of mentions that if at any point they should try and force the elves to do something, that it would probably end very badly. Some mild foreshadowing there, I'll tell you. But yeah, we also then get a couple of clarifications about the difference between elves and men. Elves are immortal, can't die of old age. Basically, they can only be killed in battle, or they can, die of grief. They can just get really sad and die that way. So, yep, those are basically you've got three options as an elf: live, get killed, or just be really sad and die. So that is the life of and death of an elf. Men, on the other hand, bit different. They have this concept called death that Eru's given to them. It's meant to be this kind of gift of they're gonna, maybe their spirit's gonna go on to another plane. Nobody really knows what's gonna happen. Melkor takes this opportunity, or will take this opportunity, later on to use this fear of death to kind of turn men to his cause and stuff like, oh, you don't fucking know fucking Eru lives, you don't know what he's gonna fucking do with you, what he die, like, why does everybody else get to live forever? I fucking think about that. And that will play into the story quite heavily as well. But no, it's meant to be the gift that is bestowed to men by Eru, and as you know, it's his own design. Nobody else knows what happens to the souls of men when they die. But that is where the chapter ends. So yeah, we've come to the end of chapter 1 of the Silmarillion proper, of the Quenta Silmarillion. Covered quite a lot of ground. We've had the first 2 gigantic light sources in Arda. We've had Melkor being a dick in several ways, several times. We've had a world war. We've had, global reshuffling. We've had the land of the gods created. And yeah, so now we're set to move on next time with chapter 2, which is of Auli and Yavanna. So you just know that there's going to be stuff being grown. There's stuff going to be smashed. There's stuff going to be created. There's going to be a whole bunch of stuff. And little spoiler, a lot of things have been mentioned so far. Ainur, Valar, elves, men. What about the dwarves? Where do the dwarves fit into this? We might just find out next time. So, I've been Rabu. I have been the Scot that abridges things. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.